Hi, everyone. This is Tracy Malone from NarcissistAbuseSupport.com. Today, we are going to talk with Stacy Brookman, who is an expert on the imposter syndrome. And many victims of narcissistic abuse have been beaten down so much that they don't know who they are. They don't feel confident that they can do things. And when they go out and get a job or, anything, this imposter syndrome is I'm not good enough, and the messaging that we hear. So Stacy is going to explain to us what imposter syndrome is and how we sort of, kind of change our brain so that we are not allowing that to rule our life. So without any further ado, let's go welcome Stacy. Stacy, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh, Tracy, we go a long ways back. I am always pleased to connect with you and share some wisdom.
And I am happy that you are here. And we are going to talk about what is imposter syndrome and how it affects victims of narcissistic abuse.
Yes.
Before we get started, can you just tell my audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So I am a resilience and leadership coach for women, and I help them get out of imposter syndrome because even when you reach like higher levels in business or, start your own business, that imposter syndrome still creeps in. Like I was in corporate for 30 years and climbing the corporate ladder and getting like really high, and I still had it. So I'm like, no, I want to give a shortcut so nobody else has to experience this. So that's what I do.
Thank you. And I think everybody experiences this at some point in their life. I mean, it's almost a natural thing. If
Yes.
I look at my 28-year-old son going out into the working force, he's like, I don't know this yet. And I'm like, but the word is yet. And, so
Right.
it was hard for him to step into being a professional without that feeling. But I know it manifests in all kinds of ways in our body. So let's talk about what is imposter syndrome, and then we'll take it from who might, and what it might look like.
Yes. Yes. Well, like you mentioned, so many people experience it. In fact, this is like executive women, but 87% of executive women have experienced it. And I would say women in general experience it more than men, no matter what role they're in. And so imposter syndrome is really that feeling that you are not enough, that you don't deserve the role that you're in, or you don't deserve to speak up and share your voice. That's why a lot of people like don't speak out about things that have gone wrong, or wrongs that have been done to them. And you just feel like an imposter, right? And so it's almost like, I think I characterized it somewhere the other day. I was like, it's almost like for me, I snuck in the side door and nobody really knows I'm here and I really shouldn't be here. Almost like a wedding crasher or something like that. Like I've crashed in on this thing. It's really great, but I really am not supposed to be here. And even when you completely deserve to be in whatever room or role or position that you're in, it still creeps up.
I know the feeling well, because I think as a daughter of a narcissistic mother, and then being with a whole string of
Yes.
them, you lose your identity, you lose your self-worth. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this narcissist thing for about 7 years, and just this year I was invited to Utah to be interviewed by Robert Redford's daughter, Amy Redford, for a big series that's going to come out on narcissism. And that was the day I most felt like an imposter. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I'm kind of like in Hollywood and creepy. And and what will I say? I mean, I don't think I slept for a week, because
Right.
you're so nervous about, being in the shoes if you don't believe that you deserve it and have
Right.
earned it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
But it's unnecessary though.
absolutely. And you know what? I rocked it, but it was still the nervousness of a new place. And that's what I was trying to explain
Right.
to people. Like, in this place, you might be safe and comfortable, the whatever job you're is, whatever your life is, but you take
Yes.
one step to the left or to the right, and you're like, wait, you want me to now run that department? I don't, but you've really known it forever. So it's just
Mhm.
about getting confidence, I'm sure, to know that you can do this. But I
Yeah.
read something this week that was that even Albert Einstein and Maya Angelou also thought that they were imposters.
Oh, can you believe that? Can you imagine Albert Einstein, Maya Angelou?
I know.
No way. But yeah, I believe it. I
Because
completely believe it.
especially, when you get that high, people are like stopping you in the streets and, you just want to go and get a cup of coffee. And it's just like,
Mhm.
that's that person. This is me, and
Right.
definitely sort of like if someone is in a career and they speak on stage, then they're used to having the stage. But someone who isn't, suddenly thrust into the limelight, would bring the lights on you before you were ready. And you're like, wait, don't
Right.
open the curtains. I'm not ready yet. Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
anyone can do this. What kind of, you said you work with women, uh,
Mhm.
and it's mostly women that you see that have this.
Mostly women, but actually I've coached several men. And so because imposter syndrome, like it's all income levels, all sexes, all, it does not matter what role. That imposter syndrome can overtake you whenever you do something new. And even when you're doing something familiar and like you're an expert at it, you know how to do it, and it still comes on. And it's just a matter of not feeling like you deserve it or that you're good enough for that. Like somebody's made a mistake, like I shouldn't be here. That's,
It's like
yeah,
a perpetual feeling of incompetence and self-doubt that,
yes,
if I take one more step, I don't know where I'm going. I'm walking on the moon. I don't know what I'm
right,
supposed to do here, right? But it's
yeah,
also a part of unworthiness,
mm-hmm.
as you said. So it's, I don't belong here. I don't, I'm doing this, and you feel like you are just faking it till you make it. But I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
that's like, should be above every college. You're not going to know when you start your first job. You're going to fake it till you make it.
right, yeah,
You'll have the skills, they'll help you with them, and move on from there. But with narcissistic victims, you and I both know the hit to their emotional resilience, to
mm-hmm.
their self-worth, to their self-esteem. Does
Right.
this can you see it affecting victims a little bit more often?
Oh, absolutely. And most people who are victims have been trained to be an imposter syndrome, right? Always like you and gaslit, you're not enough, right? We're always like that is beaten into us,
Mhm.
mentally, emotionally. And so it's like, yeah, you're never enough because the game changes
Right.
hourly, right? And
Mhm.
you never know what is the right thing to do or how to react. And so naturally, imposter syndrome develops. And it develops even, like you said, with the narcissistic parents, and you bring that into adulthood. And then come across like all kinds of people who are more than willing to take advantage of your imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And is it something that you get, like you got a cold, or is it something that is just a base of feelings inside? How do we define, like, how does someone, I'm not saying the word get it because it's not like you can catch it,
right, right.
but it is sort of, how does this manifest in people? Is that a better word?
Yeah, I love that you asked that question because it goes into what one of the strategies are that probably primarily strategy that I help people help get out of it, but it's that feeling in your body. So even all of our emotions are simply just but feelings in your body. And maybe if you're cut off from your emotions, you might not think you feel it, but it's that throat closing or that tightened chest or that heaviness in the pit of your stomach. So it's really simply an emotion or feeling in your body, and therefore not anything to be afraid of, right? So imposter syndrome, it can't, like, can a feeling do anything to you? Absolutely not. It cannot. But what it can do is cause your brain to think something that is not necessarily going to serve you well. And that's exactly what it does.
Right. And it's bringing back old recordings, right? In the
Yes.
dark world, it's, you were told you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you'll never be a,
Right.
and when you're told those things, and you step onto a stage, whatever I'm not saying a literal stage, but you're stepping out into something
Mm-hmm.
that's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
those recordings come flying back at you. No, you're not good enough. And you've got your little voices on your shoulder telling you that's not, yeah, good try,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
sabotaging yourself in many ways.
Yeah. And I like that you characterize that, because what really happens too is we have the amygdala, right? The the one that's trying to keep us safe. And it is always looking to the past to know what to do, what to tell you what to do, right? And so that thing is like, hey, you need to stay in the cave. Have you ever done this before and been wildly successful? Nope. Then you need, it's danger. You're going to get killed if you step out of this cave that I'm trying to keep you safe. And I think the good thing is to know that what that amygdala is doing when it's trying to keep you in the cave is it's trying to protect you, right? It thinks doing something new. It thinks saying, you know, how good I've done at something, and being proud of yourself or whatever, and being understand that you're fully deserving of whatever that raise, that thinks that you are going to be hurt by that. And so therefore it's controlling you, saying, nope, stay in the cave. But we do have the prefrontal cortex that can think differently, think about the future, not the past, and what is possible for ourselves. And that is the beautiful thing. And so that I love helping people leverage that prefrontal cortex, but also being compassionate for what's gone in the past and what your brain is like. Yeah, I get it. You're just trying to protect me. Thank you. But you know what? I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to speak out anyway.
Yeah. And that's what all survivors need to hear. But,
Yes.
you know, when I look at the side effects, if you would, of narcissistic abuse, many victims are people pleasers, perfection.
Yes.
And what happens is we become those things as a coping strategy to the fact that we're being abused. So we kind of morph into that. But when we have perfectionism, you just make one little mistake and, you know, your entire world could fall apart, you know, and no one else knows or cares, but it is internal where that perfectionism means you're not right, you're not perfect, and it just cripples you. Is there a tie to this imposter syndrome with perfectionism and people pleasing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I look at imposter syndrome as the overarching stance, and it shows up in a number of ways. And one of those ways is in people pleasing. It shows up in perfectionism, but you know what? It also, and a lot of people do this and they don't realize it's imposter syndrome. It also shows up in overwork and being overwhelmed. So imposter syndrome has a lot of tentacles, and it's all around. I'm trying to make sure that other people know I'm somebody, I'm something that I really myself don't think I am.
Right. Yeah. So how does someone fix this? I mean, besides just getting up and going, I'm gonna get on the stage, I'll take that job I don't think I'm qualified for.
Yeah. Well, there's a long distance between both of those. But it's when it's all about the desire to keep our image or our persona at a certain level for other people. So what we're doing is we're trying to keep people happy with us, right? And I've struggled with these in my life. It all relates to trying to control how you want to be perceived by other people. Now, this might be really interesting for most people who are like, wait a minute, I'm trying to control. But yes, you are. So when you do people pleasing actions, right? I want to try to like make the best dinner, or I want to, you know, overwork at work, or I want to like do every little last, like triple, quadruple, 10 times check that report I got to turn in. That perfectionism, you're really trying to make sure that that person that you're looking at knows that you are a good person. You want to be perceived. And it's not bad to be perceived as a good person, but here's the thing. We can't actually control anybody else in the world. Zero. We have zero control. So we are human beings. They are human beings. They are more than happy to believe or think whatever they want about us. And when you understand that, you're like, okay, I get it. You know, my brain is trying to solve for avoiding this negative emotion of somebody not liking me. Right. But what we got to understand is like, people have every right to not like us. It's okay. We're humans. They have different perceptions of, for instance, let's say cleaning house than I have.
Mhm.
And if they're not happy, that's their problem, right? That's their emotion. They're allowed to have their emotions, just like we're allowed to have our emotions. So you have to first be kind to yourself and say, I have the right to feel however I want.
Mhm.
But just know that so does everybody else. So does that narcissist, so does that boss, so does your friend, right? And so what we try to do is say, I call them, we have manuals, and we have really thick manuals that we say, here's what you need to do to make me happy. You need to praise me when I turn in this report. You, friend, need to call me on my birthday. You need to do this. And all of these manuals are like, we have, here's how you need to act to make me feel good about myself.
Mhm.
And really what you need to do is feel, just you feel good. You're the person that needs to feel good about yourself. And so, and guess what? Everybody else has manuals for us. You need, if you're going to be a good wife, you need to cook dinner and be it perfect and yada, yada, yada. And that's like, that's your manual, dude.
Like, ooh, I gave that manual up for Lent.
Exactly.
Love
So just drop the manuals and know that other people are going to act however they're going to act. You can't actually control your persona, your perception with anybody. So you just have to know, I love who I am and I am happy with who I am, and then recognize that.
Right. And also when we started at this last little bit here was, you're putting together this presentation for everyone to like you, right?
Yes.
Instead of that, put together the presentation to go, this is my very best work and I'm proud.
Yes.
That's how you get that feeling of this is worth
Exactly.
it. And I know I've put my heart into it. Because if you do a crummy job, you'll know it. And then
Mhm.
you throw that to your boss and go, hey, don't you like it? Don't you like it? I'm right here, and it's like,
Right.
it's only going to hurt you. So by putting your best foot forward, that's what you're controlling, right?
Yeah.
More than you are controlling anybody else's impression of you. But
Yeah.
there's fears involved. How does someone deal with the fears that come?
Yeah. So it all begins. So this is all in the brain, right? And I'm a nerd about how your behavior is affected by your brain, right? That's the controlling part of this. So what I do is I teach people, I take them through this process where they recognize what feeling they're feeling, right? Just recognize, like, is it fear? Is it really shame? Is it inadequacy? Is it, what exactly is it? Just name that and feel it and acknowledge it, because I will tell you, there is nobody that's 100% perfect out there. Nobody who is like, everybody makes mistakes. That just means you are human. You're a human being, even if you make 10 mistakes in a row. I'll tell you, one time I was making a coffee cake, and instead of getting the cinnamon, I got the chicken seasoning and I made it with that. And it has a lot of cinnamon in it, coffee cake. So it was terrible. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it again. I did the exact same thing again. I made a whole coffee cake. And then I finally, the third time, made a good coffee cake. And you know what? It's just human. It's okay if you make a mistake. So that's the first thing, is to find out what exactly, name it. It's just one feeling, right? Let's just narrow it down to one. You might be feeling a lot of things, but narrow it down to one that is the primary thing. Then you ask yourself, what is the thought that's driving that feeling? Because our thoughts in our head drive every feeling that we have. And is it, man, I screwed up one more time. Oh my gosh. Or this sucks. I'm never good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. Or whatever that nasty thought is. And I'm like, that mean girl in your head is that amygdala, and saying, stay in the cave. It's trying to say, don't go out. Don't do other things. This is too scary. And so, and also trying to control other people's opinions of you. So just identify that thought, and then you can say, is that thought really true? Like, I can never do anything right. That was one of the things that I used to think. I can never do anything right. Is that really true? Not really. I
Mhm.
could screw up the coffee cake 10 times and it's still, I've done some things right.
Mhm.
Right. So I made the rest of the recipe right. I got all the other ingredients.
We just
So,
threw out the poultry seasoning and it.
yeah, exactly. So it's just like, and that translates to every area of your life. So once you recognize the feeling and then go back up and think, okay, what is the thought that's driving that feeling? I'm having a thought that is causing that. And then recognizing and just write it out in black and white. What exactly is that thought? And is it really true? Right. And even if it is true, like maybe let's say I don't really deserve the job.
Mhm.
Probably not true. But let's just say you really think it is true. So what? Right? If you really don't deserve that job, if you really feel like you don't deserve that job, or let's say in a court of law, everybody would say, nope, she doesn't deserve the job. Is that thought serving you well?
Mhm.
Right? Is that going to help you? So the next thing about that is once you have the thought that causes the feeling, you look at the actions that you do. So from the feeling of, let's say, shame, the thought that I never do anything right. I feel shame. From the feeling of shame, what are your actions? I hide. I don't speak up. When I was in corporate, I would let everybody else go around the room and share their opinions. And then I would share something that related to somebody else's, right? I would never share something that was original, although I had tons of original. I'm like brainstorming is my superpower. And I had tons of ideas, but I would wait. Right. And so, um, what actions, like maybe you sit and mope, maybe you ruminate about all the mistakes that you've made. All these actions are driven by that feeling of shame or whatever feeling that you're feeling. And then look at the results. The results are you never approve of yourself. You're always in that circle of, I'm never good enough. I can't do anything right. I like, right. And so, and maybe some of the actions is I work until 11 o'clock at night on this report because I want it to be perfect. So once you recognize that, the
Mhm.
beautiful thing is you are in charge of your thoughts. So
Mhm.
yes, that in the cave amygdala is feeding you these thoughts, and you can say, okay, I get it, I see those thoughts, I recognize what those are, but I'm going to move forward anyway. I'm going to praise myself anyway. And you can think a different thought. Now this is different from a mantra or something like that. So if you say, I'm the best supervisor they ever had, and you don't believe it, that that's not going to do anything for that shame.
Mhm.
Not a single thing, because you're just trying to tell yourself and you don't believe it.
Mhm.
So I always think there's in terms of thought ladders.
Mhm.
So I can never do anything right. What is just 10% better than that? Hmm, I
I
can do
don't
some
always screw up.
things, right? What?
I don't always screw up.
I don't always screw up. That's 10% better, right?
Mhm.
And then like think through that like several days, right? Maybe even a week if you need to, and just keep it like on a little sticky note. And then think, what's 10% better than, once you believe that I don't always screw up, and you're in your heart, in your brain, then you can say, what's 10% better than that? It's possible that I can do some things right. And then spend some days with that. Then you can ladder yourself up to, I'm an amazing human being. I love what I do. I love how I show up in the world. Yes, I'm human. Yes, I make mistakes, and that's okay. And so that's how you ladder up to to get rid of that imposter syndrome, because you're thinking those thoughts and you're believing your own thoughts, and
Mhm.
you know that, yep, those other thoughts, they're always going to be there. They're along for the ride. As long as they're not driving in the driver's seat and you're driving the bus, you're like, okay, yep, but sit in the back. Doubt, self-doubt, or self-condemnation or whatever, just sit in the back. And I will tell you, it doesn't matter if it like this comes from your childhood or some trauma or whatever it is. I know that's where mine originated, and being with a narcissist slash sociopath for a long time, like a lot of it just added onto that. But it doesn't matter, because right now you are in charge of your thoughts right now.
Right.
And this is how you get to get out of that imposter syndrome and move on.
Yeah, I love everything that you say. I was definitely, because of my narcissistic abuse, I wouldn't say I was OCD, but I was a perfectionist. Like,
Yes.
I would set the dining room table for Christmas in November. I'm like, no, everything has to be perfect. And then the first flowers go there.
Yes.
I was just like, I was obsessed with the look and the feel, because I like
Mhm.
it. It's not that I was trying to impress people. It's just how I grew up, and I like to feel that way. But
Right.
I had to learn to embrace imperfection.
Mhm.
I had to burn a couple roasts and go, well, you do know how to cook, but this one's a little overcooked.
Right.
I get things like, I had this beautiful dining room table and someone dropped a knife and put a big dent in it, and I embrace it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I don't care. If I
Mhm.
had to worry about, I would have hired the furniture guy to come and fix, and you'd never know it, right? I
Right.
even like, I walk down the street and I don't tie my boots. And my friends are like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, it's what I like.
Yeah.
This is not your perfect. This is
Right.
accepting exactly where you are,
Where you are.
warts and all. And when you start to realize, I'm allowed to screw up.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
imposter syndrome is, hey, I might not be able to do this, but I'm going to freaking try, because
Exactly.
I believe I can. And
Yeah.
if I fall and fail, I'll learn something from it, but I'm going to
Mhm.
get up like a fighter and fight again. And
Yeah.
that's how I envision taking on this imposter syndrome is, what, there are going to be people, and people need to understand this. When you've been with a narcissist, your brain is warped and you've just sort of got this tunnel
Mhm.
vision for narcs. But, there are going to be people that don't like you. There are going to be
That's
people that,
okay.
no matter what
Yeah.
you do, if you put the most perfect report together, it's probably out of jealousy. They're not going to like you. So
Right.
instead of going, I want everyone to like me, and if they don't, I'm wounded and I go back into my self, doubt and everything else, go,
Yeah.
yeah, most of the people liked it. Oh, well,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Or
becomes,
even if nobody does,
right,
that's okay. I'll change it, or whatever. What would you like to see, and I can change it up.
exactly.
Perfectly fine.
It's
That reminds me, when you were talking about walking down the street, one of the things that I had to do, and this might be helpful as well, is acknowledge that it's safe to feel good about myself, and just kind of tell myself, it's safe to
mhm.
show up. So even as I was starting my business, and I'm like, who am I to coach, right? Who am I to to do some of these things? Who am I to share wisdom with somebody? And you know what? I'm like, it's that fear, it's the imposter syndrome, it's the thoughts. And then I had to acknowledge, you know what? It's safe to do this. I'm okay. It's safe to think that I like myself. It's safe to think that I'm a great presenter. It's safe to think that I can do these things. So that might help you with your latter
Mhm.
thoughts.
Right.
It's safe to think
Mhm.
this, and whatever you want to think. What is that 10% better?
Yeah.
And that's, I even still, because there's still some of that that keeps kind of creeping in sometimes, and I just have to keep telling it, I get it, but you know what, I'm safe,
Mhm.
even if I want to show up in the world, and I am worthy.
Right.
It's safe to feel like I'm worthy. It's totally safe.
And I want people to know too that, again, this is not like we walk down the street every single day with this, do they know I only had, mowed my lawn this week? You're not walking down the street like, with dialogues in your head of people judging you, right?
Mhm.
But it is at times where this will come back, is where I'm trying something new. I'm
Yeah.
trying something out of my box. I'm, not comfortable with the new position because I don't know it yet. But
Right.
instead of going, oh, I'm so afraid of the new position, being like, I don't know it yet, but I'm looking so forward to
Yeah.
learning about it. And I'm going to do the best job I can. I'll put all my energy into it. And that's how I will ease my fears about my worthiness of being able to be in that position.
Yeah. Exactly. I remember so many times going into a position and feeling like I had to know it, like I got the position, so I had to know it. And therefore, didn't ask questions on how to do it well. And it came out later, like beyond the time when I really should have known it well, that I didn't know it well. I'm like, oh, and so that was part of it. I don't think I even learned from that, but I, because all of this I've learned later in life after my corporate career. I'm like, gosh, I wish I had this back then, because I wouldn't have put up that front and said, thought that I should know everything from day one or day 90 or the first year, right? It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask questions of the people who are maybe below you even,
Yeah.
right? And so yeah, and it's safe. And the thing of it is, like, our brain too often hides these thoughts from us.
Mhm.
And so I always tell people, do a daily download of what am I thinking about my job? What am I thinking about who I am in the world? What am I thinking? And just do a 5-minute, 10-minute brainstorm of what your thoughts are, because your brain is going to feed you these secretly and you're not even going to know. You're going to feel yucky, or you're going to feel like, I don't want to go do that. But it's
Mhm.
because of the imposter syndrome. If you do this thought download every day
Mhm.
and then work that model, okay, what is that thought? Take one of those thoughts.
Mhm.
What is the feeling that that thought causes? When I feel that feeling, what do I do or not do? And what is the result of that? And is that what I want?
Mhm.
If not, let me change that.
Exactly. Did we miss anything? This has been a great talk so far. Is there anything
Yeah.
else that I missed that we should include and make sure people know?
I don't think so. The only thing is, if people want to do that model to help them, I have it's at realliferesilience.com/remarkable resilience. That will teach you how to do that model on the thoughts that you are thinking.
Okay.
So when you recognize them and you kind of see exactly, that's exactly what that's doing, then you can, like Maya Angelou says, once you know better, then you can do better. So once you know better, once you see that and you're like, I get it. Yes, that's my brain. I understand. Thank you, brain, for trying to keep me safe. But I'm going to still do this, or I'm going to still feel good about myself. I'm still going to turn in this report, even though I haven't checked it for the third time. Right.
Yeah.
And get it done. So the most important thing is recognizing those thoughts, because those thoughts, you are in control of new thoughts,
Mhm.
and the thoughts drive everything that you feel and do.
Very helpful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Stacy. I will put the link to the
Welcome.
part you just talked about
Awesome.
below. So anybody who is sitting here listening, whether you're on a podcast or on YouTube, we'll put that in the show notes so that they can find and have access
Wonderful.
to that cool tool that you've got.
Yes.
Thank you. I hope that you guys enjoyed that. I love Stacy. She's a dear friend and always so informative and so helpful. So we will put the link down below to her worksheet that she was just talking about. And you can find more information about her in the links down below in the show notes. Again, if you are listening on YouTube and you haven't liked or subscribed to my channel, please do. It helps us get seen by more people, and that helps more survivors. So a simple, liked it, and we might end up like getting to more people. So thank you so much for listening to this interview, and we will have a lot more like it. If you need more information on narcissistic abuse, please visit my website, narcissistabusesupport.com. We have thousands of resources. We have free ebooks. Well, you could buy them on Amazon, or you can get them for free on my site. There's so much there that it's going to help you get through this. So thanks for listening about imposter syndrome, and I'll see you again soon.